Have you ever wondered why the Greeks are considered some of the greatest warriors in history? We've all heard the iconic stories, the battle at Marathon, where the Athenians took on the massive Persian force and won, or the famous 300 Spartans who stood their ground against Xerxes' army at Thermopylae, not to mention their naval superiority at Salamis, where Greek ships outmaneuvered the massive Persian fleet. But while these victories are legendary, what if I told you the Greeks didn't always have it easy? Despite their remarkable successes, the Greeks faced challenges that would have overwhelmed lesser forces. They were often outnumbered, fighting on unfamiliar ground, or up against foes with superior resources. So, how did they manage to secure victory time and again? Was it sheer strength, unbeatable tactics, or something else? In this video, we'll dive deep into why the Greeks struggled in battle and how they turned their struggles into legendary victories. From the iconic phalanx formation to their naval genius, we'll explore how the Greeks utilized strategy, innovation, and endurance to become the warriors we remember today. The Greek phalanx was more than just a battle formation. It was the backbone of Greek warfare. Comprised of hoplites' heavily armed foot soldiers, this formation created an impenetrable wall of shields and spears. What made the phalanx so powerful wasn't just the size of the formation, but its unity. Every hoplite's shield wasn't just for their own defense. It was used to protect the man next to them. This interconnected defense created an unbreakable barrier that allowed the Greeks to push forward as one unstoppable force. The Battle of Marathon in 490 BCE is one of the best examples of the phalanx's power. The Athenians, facing a much larger Persian army, relied on the discipline and strength of the phalanx to overwhelm the invaders. With their shields locked and spears thrust forward, the Greeks charged, pushing the Persians back to their ships. The impact was overwhelming, and the Persians couldn't withstand the precision and power of the Greek formation. The result, a decisive victory that stunned the ancient world. The phalanx wasn't invincible, but it was incredibly effective. Its success wasn't just about raw strength, it was about unity and discipline. At Thermopylae, King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans proved this. Despite being vastly outnumbered, the Spartans formed their phalanx in a narrow pass, where the enemy's size meant nothing. For 3 days, they fought back wave after wave of Persian attackers. Even when their numbers dwindled, the phalanx held firm, showing that with discipline and strategy, the Greeks could overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. While the Greeks were known for their land battles, their naval strategy was equally crucial to their success. Greek triremes, sleek, fast ships powered by 170 rowers, were a marvel of ancient engineering. Unlike their enemies' heavy, cumbersome ships, Greek triremes were agile and designed for one thing: sinking enemy vessels. Their bronze battering rams could pierce the hulls of opposing ships. Turning the tide of naval battles, the Battle of Salamis in 480 BCE stands out as a prime example of Greek naval superiority. Themistocles, the mastermind behind the Greek strategy, understood that the massive Persian fleet was at a disadvantage in the narrow straits of Salamis. He lured the Persians into the confined waters, where their large ships couldn't maneuver. Effectively, the Greeks, with their smaller, faster triremes, struck swiftly and decisively, smashing the Persian fleet. Themistocles' use of geography to trap the Persians was a brilliant move that changed the course of the war. But the trireme's success wasn't just about its speed and firepower, it was about the strategy behind its use. The Greek fleet didn't just ram and retreat. They coordinated their attacks with precision. Once the triremes rammed the Persian ships, Greek marines Epeibatai boarded the enemy vessels to finish the job. Their soldiers, armed with grappling hooks and spears, fought on enemy ships, creating chaos and ensuring complete victory. The success of Greek warfare wasn't solely due to their formations or shipsit, was also the result of their brilliant commanders. Men like Miltiades, Leonidas, and Themistocles didn't just lead their armies. They were strategic visionaries who understood how to win against overwhelming odds. At Marathon, Miltiades faced a Persian army far larger than his own. Instead of staying defensive, he used a bold strategy. He thinned the center of his lines, reinforcing the flanks. When the Persians attacked, they were met with an unexpected counterattack from the Greek flanks, trapping them in a pincer movement. The result was a crushing defeat for the Persians. At Thermopylae, Leonidas and his 300 Spartans showed their courage and tactical brilliance. The narrow pass at Thermopylae neutralized the Persians' numerical advantage, forcing them to fight in a confined space. Even though the Spartans were eventually overwhelmed, their heroic stand sent a powerful message to the Greeks and the world. No matter the odds, discipline and resolve can turn the tide of battle. Then there's Themistocles, who turned the tide of the war at Salamis. Themistocles understood the power of naval warfare and knew that defeating the Persian fleet would cripple Xerxes' forces. By using the narrow straits to trap the Persian ships, he ensured that the Greek triremes could strike with maximum impact. Themistocles' strategic foresight at Salamis was a game-changer for the Greeks. Siege warfare is often seen as a game of attrition, where the attacker slowly wears down the defender's fortifications. But the Greeks were masters of siege tactics, using innovation and strategy to overcome fortified cities. One of the most notable examples of Greek ingenuity in defense was the Long Walls of Athens. During the Peloponnesian War, the Spartans laid siege to Athens, hoping to starve the city into submission. But Athens had prepared for such a scenario. The Long Walls connected the city to its port at Piraeus, ensuring a steady flow of supplies and reinforcements from the sea. This defensive masterpiece forced the Spartans to waste years in a futile attempt to breach Athens. While the city remained well supplied, the Greeks didn't just rely on walls, they were also inventive with siege equipment. The siege tower, a massive structure on wheels, allowed soldiers to scale enemy walls while being protected from projectiles. This innovation made it possible for Greek forces to breach even the most fortified positions. In addition, the Greeks used flamethrowers during sieges, a terrifying weapon that sent streams of fire into enemy defenses, causing destruction and panic. Yet, the most famous siege failure occurred during the Athenian expedition to Syracuse. The Athenians, despite their superior tactics, were trapped when the Syracusans used their superior naval forces to isolate the Greek army. Without proper supply lines and facing constant attacks, the Athenians eventually collapsed, teaching the Greeks a harsh lesson in the importance of logistics and adaptability in siege warfare. Logistics were often the unseen backbone of Greek military campaigns. Without the ability to supply their armies, the Greeks would not have been able to fight for extended periods, let alone win their wars. One of the most brilliant examples of logistical planning was the construction of the Long Walls of Athens. These walls connected the city to the port of Piraeus, allowing Athens to remain supplied even when surrounded by the Spartans. This strategic infrastructure ensured that Athens could continue to fight, while the Spartans wasted their efforts in a long, drawn-out siege. Greek armies also relied on resourcefulness. Soldiers carried enough rations for 3 days, allowing them to remain mobile without relying on supply lines. They were trained to forage for food, and slaves acted as porters to carry equipment. This flexibility made Greek armies much more adaptable than their enemies. However, the Athenian expedition to Syracuse in the Peloponnesian War demonstrated how failure in logistics could lead to disaster. The Athenians were caught off guard while foraging for food, and their fleet was destroyed. Thousands of soldiers were captured or killed. This failure highlighted the importance of solid logistical planning, and how even the most brilliant military strategies can fail if an army can't sustain itself. The Greeks weren't just legendary warriors, they were innovators and tacticians who understood that success in battle required more than just strength. They demonstrated that strategy, endurance, and adaptability were just as important as raw power, from the discipline of the phalanx to the precision of their naval tactics. The Greeks consistently proved that victory came not just from fighting, but from thinking ahead, understanding your enemy, and using every advantage available. Greek commanders like Miltiades, Leonidas, and Themistocles didn't just lead, they redefined what it meant to be a general. Their ability to adapt to changing circumstances, whether in land battles or naval engagements, ensured their place in history. So, the next time you hear about the famous Greek victories, remember, it wasn't just about the warriors, it was about the strategy, logistics, and innovative thinking that allowed them to triumph against all odds.